Okay, and we are live. Welcome to a new episode of All Things Xbox Podcast. Once again, I've got Logan with me. Logan, how you doing this week?
Doing pretty good. Now that we're over storms for now, just enjoying some nice playoff basketball, hanging with the dog, playing some Xbox. Life is good. How about you, man?
Dealing with the cold weather. In the midst of a cold snap, getting ready for the warm weather, which we're just going to complain about over here. But before we get into all the topics and stuff, have you been playing anything interesting this past week?
Yeah, I've been wrapping up Bolt Gun. I'm on I think the final mission to complete that. I picked up a bunch of games that were on that non-Halloween horror game sale that Xbox had, like several boomer shooters in that, several survival horror type games, and like some throwback titles. So I'm gonna be jumping into those. I was excited about some of the stuff we saw at the ID showcase. We'll talk about. But in general, I've kind of just been dabbling in a little bit of this and a little bit of that with some gaming. How about you?
Lots of Lost Judgment. That game, it's phenomenal. What can I say? I still think the first game is better, and if people are interested, it's currently on sale on Xbox Live at the minute. I think you can get the first game for around £10, worth every penny. I'll put it this way: I think Judgment may actually be in the top 25 like best games of all time for me. Incredible game. But yeah, Lost Judgment, incredible. Dragon's Dogma 2. Uh, the funny thing about Dragon's Dogma 2 is that it's clearly not a long game. Like, it's going to be like 30, 40 hours for most people. But it's one of those games where you can just put so much extra time into just walking around, doing stuff. And it's a game I don't want to finish. It's kind of like Elden Ring. I postponed playing Elden Ring to the end for so long because I just loved it so much. But yeah, Dragon's Dogma 2, incredible game. What can I say? Been playing lots of Fallout, which we'll be talking about in a little bit. But bunch of stuff like that. Oh, and Harold Halibut, the indie game that recently launched in Game Pass. The whole game is it's hand animated, kind of like Wallace and Gromit, and it's an amazing game. On a technical level, it's super impressive. It's been in development for over 10 years. I think it was like one of the first major like Kickstarter games that were like was successful. If people like sci-fi, play it. It's excellent story, very chill game. You basically get an achievement every like hour or so, that's cool. But other than that, just some backwards compatible stuff. Uh, I'm trying my best not to reinstall Mass Effect because my yearly playthrough's coming up, and I really want to get to it. But I mean, the reason why it takes me so long is to finish games is because I replay stuff all the time. Like, it's one of the things with me. I love replaying games, and the fact that I can on my Xbox, it's just tempting all the time. Anyway, we have a lot of topics to go over. Let's get to it. Now, I want to get over this quickly because I only just found out about this a couple hours ago. So, Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora, I've been going on about that game since it came out. It's an incredible first-person open world action game. Well, basically, they put out a brand new update today, and like people will give Ubisoft a lot of crap for things they've done in the past, but Ubisoft Massive, they take care of their games. They've literally patched out and fixed every issue people have had wrong with that game. Like, I only have like a few small issues with that game, such as like quality of life things, and they literally put out an update video today and literally listed off every single issue I had wrong with the game. So, for instance, difficulty can spike really high in like even easy areas, which doesn't make sense. Aiming with a bow at mechs doesn't really work a lot of the time, even though it should. And like they've just patched that all out. It works now. They've got smoother aiming. They've changed the difficulty in certain areas. Riding the dire horse thing, I forgot its name. It's faster now. Faster traversal. They've made it so you can craft with items that are in your storage, so you don't have to go back and forth all the time. It's it's good to see that the developers have clearly paid attention to what the community has been saying, because Ubisoft put this game out to die, right? You have Avatar, one of the biggest franchises on the planet, that only has two films, and they put out this amazing game last year, and Ubisoft didn't market the thing, didn't market it at all, and it's disgraceful that they didn't market it. It's appalling, really, because the game they put out is incredible. That's why I have so much faith in Star Wars Outlaws. They clearly know how to take care of an IP. I've got footage on screen at the minute, and like, there's no game like Avatar. So if people have been on the fence, now's the best time. I think it's on sale, or might still be on sale. And like, they fixed everything. It's crazy. Like, Logan, do you think you'll be picking up Avatar at some point?
Yeah, I will. It's one I have on my radar to pick up. Next time it's on sale will probably be at the time I get it. Or like once it hits that a sweet spot, $45 ish maybe for the ultimate edition or something, then I'll probably nab it.
Yeah, Ubisoft games tend to do that. The gold edition with the DLC. Another thing they've added is that if you have a 120 hertz TV, you can play it at 40 frames per second. So you can play with the 30 frames per second, quality mode, which is what I played at, but at 40, which is really cool. More games are implementing that, which is really cool. But yeah, great game, and it's good to see that Ubisoft's actually taking care of it in an age where some games are just put out left to die and don't get quality of life, updates. So good on them. Anyway, we'll move on. Just wanted to talk about that quickly. I want to talk about Fallout 4 quickly because we got the next gen upgrade last week, and ever since the TV show came out, people have been talking about Fallout nonstop. I think 90% of my feed on Twitter is just Fallout, and that's
Okie
really,
dokie.
yeah, it's really cool. And Fallout 76 has this new wave of hype. There's all these people discovering it, and like a lot of people didn't even know it had like basically a single player story, which they added a few years ago. But man, it's so cool to see that Fallout has came back in such a way, because we haven't had Fallout for a long time. We got Fallout 4 in 2015. We got Fallout 76 in 2019, I think. And that had a huge issues at launch when it came to the map, the bugs, even the collector's edition. And Fallout's kind of been on the back burner for a while, and now it's just back in full form. The next gen upgrade, people have issues with it. Personally, I don't have any issues with the next gen upgrade. I've been playing at 4K 60 on quality mode, which is beautiful. People were telling me I was out of my mind saying it was 4K 60, and then Bethesda came out the next day and said, "Yep, quality mode is in fact 4K 60." And I have a weird relationship with Fallout 4. I bought the collector's edition when it came out. I was super hyped because I was a massive Fallout 3 fan. Fallout 3 is one of my favorite games of all time. And I basically left the vault, did my own thing, and I didn't really get back to the game ever. Things in life get in the way, new games come out. So I like this massively anticipated title. I just didn't really play outside of the first few hours. And as someone that's finally got back to it 9 years later, I am absolutely loving Fallout 4. It's very different to Fallout 3. You have voiced dialogue by the main character. There's kind of some Mass Effect-ish inspiration when it comes to the dialogue, which I actually quite like. It's very refreshing. It's a different kind of Bethesda game for me, but man, what a good upgrade. I know people have been a bit weird when it comes to the upgrade, saying it's buggy and stuff, but personally, off my impression, I've had no issues at all. Like, Logan, have you played the Fallout 4 upgrade yet at all?
I have not. I installed it and installed the update and got all the free content from the Creator Club because of the upgrade. So I did that and I reinstalled 76 and got all the free content from that um, from from the Fallout show tie-ins for those two games. And then there's also a Fallout show tie-ins for Fallout Shelter if you play that. And but I'm eager to jump in, and I've been really feeling the itch to jump in. I'm gonna finish Bolt Gun since I'm almost done, but I do plan on hopping in very soon to the Wasteland. And more than 65 million views for the Fallout show on Prime is their second biggest ever
That's crazy. And like,
in 16 days.
yeah, that's crazy. I mean, I know people were making fun of Rebel Moon Part 2, but Rebel Moon Part 2 is like Netflix's most successful film of all time or something, with 21 million views, and this Fallout season has tripled it, which is, it's crazy. Like, and the thing is, it's a video game adaptation. I've never seen a video game adaptation cause this much hype. Anything. You know, the Mario movie last year, I thought was fantastic. I loved that Mario movie. But I didn't see a massive wave of people talking about Mario and buying Mario games. It was just a really good film. You know, Sonic the Hedgehog, the movie that came out in 2020. I didn't see people going out in droves buying new Sonic games. But like Fallout just really stuck with people. And I think it's the post-apocalyptic fantasy, you know. People love The Walking Dead season 1 specifically, because like I think a lot of people have always had in the back of their mind like, what if it happened, you know? And in Fallout, you can kind of experience that. It's just there's ghouls, there's giant mutants and stuff, and it's really resonated with people. Like the fact that millions and millions of people are playing Fallout on console, on PC. It's super cool. Like, and I think Microsoft, they didn't expect this, you know, happening. Like, how could you really expect this to have Fallout 76, a game that people like? If you type Fallout 76 into YouTube, it's all just videos trashing the game. That's all it is. I haven't played the game, although I am going to get to it this year, because it has basically a single player story now. But man, so cool to see, and it's off a TV show. Who would have thought it could do this? And we'll be talking about Fallout later in the show when it comes to new titles. But yeah, super cool stuff for Fallout, and I think more people need to download that update. Talk about this quickly, I forgot to mention this. I played Every Crab's Treasure, which launched in Game Pass recently. A lot of people don't like Souls games. Like they tune out the second I mention Souls game. And you know what? Fair enough. But if people want to get into one, this game actually has difficulty options, which I don't think I've ever seen.
Blasphemy.
yeah, I don't think I've ever seen for a Souls like. And basically, it has difficulty modifiers, so you can decide how much health you take from hits and how much damage you give. So you can basically play your own, and there's even an option to play this game with Invincible turned on, so you can literally not die throughout the entire game. And there's also an option to play through this game with a gun, and the gun is about like 30 times the size of the crab. So hey, if people are new to Souls games or want to give something a go, try this. It's got a bunch of different options, and it's also got like 3D platforming stuff. It's in Game Pass, why not? Next up, I want to talk about. I was telling Logan about this before the show, and I think people listening may have heard about this. That there's a particular PC game I've been wanting to come to Xbox consoles for a long time, years even. It's called Escape from Tarkov, and it's a first-person shooter. It's an extraction game, and for like maybe the past year, I've been contemplating, should I do my usual, PC port campaign type thing? And I decided not to do that because the developer recently put out a bundle for $250, and it locks behind it the mode people have been wanting for years, single player. And the fan base is livid. And I know this is a PC game and this is an Xbox podcast, but I had to mention it because, like, if this works, it'll bleed into other publishers, and they might get the same idea as well. Like, I've never heard of a publisher putting out a $250 bundle, digital bundle. There's no physical stuff. It's got pay-to-win stuff behind it, such as extra storage, some of the best weapons in the entire game. The fact that you don't lose your weapons when you're wiped out, and like locking single player behind $250. It's crazy. We've heard about John Riccatello when he worked at EA, that he wanted to charge Battlefield players per bullet, and that's something he pushed for. charging Battlefield players per clip or per magazine during Battlefield, and it's like, thankfully that didn't go through, but yeah, $250 for a single player mode and pay to win mechanics. Like, Logan, I know we talked about this during the show, but that's crazy.
Yeah, that is just downright outrageous, scandalous, just the lowest of low, bottom of the barrel scum behavior. That is just vile. Like that's even more delusional than failure to meet expectations, Square Enix thinking. That is just crazy. And I mean, like, I know this is Xbox, but I mean, imagine the old Pokemon games. Like, if they made it to where you couldn't battle your friends or trade or anything in the base game, and you had to buy a whole nother expansion or something to be able to do those things that were part of the experience. Like, imagine hiding a whole huge aspect of it behind a whole big thing like that. That's just ridiculous. And I hope people speak out because that should not stand. That is just outrageous.
Yeah, and like, bear in mind, I was wanting this game to come to console and like hoping it would get a single player mode. Um, but like $250 and like that sets a stupidly dangerous precedent. And like, for new players that have never played it before and you want to play it on PC, does that bundle actually look appealing? I kind of guess so, because considering you have a lot of griefers in that game, it's the game probably that has the most cheaters. But yeah, that stuff better not work and bleed out into console, because again, EA, they wanted to charge for ammo. You have Ubisoft. Like, if you go to Ubisoft's website right now and type Star Wars Outlaws, the first edition they show you is the $120 version. Like, they want to funnel people into the expensive version or their subscription service. And it's like, I whined about this last week, like, about gamers being nickeled and dimed every 5 seconds. And it's happening in every industry, you know. I saw a video the other day of it was like a supermarket in the US, self checkout, and you could tip. You could tip at a self checkout machine with a percentage. And I just think, like, who are you tipping exactly? You know, like, the machine isn't getting any of that money. You know, it's not going out getting to spend that money. No, it's going to the CEO. Like, and it's, I don't know. It's just the state of everything at the minute. Game prices going up. Um, and I saw on a thread today, and yes, this is me whining about game prices again. Uh, Someone in the game industry said that we should be paying 5 times the amount that we were for video games, or that video games should cost 5 times more. But it's just stupid. I'm sick of, like, publishers thinking they can screw us over at every opportunity, which they are. Remember, the price of video games already went up this generation, $70. You know, and remember, you're getting these games digitally most of the time. You're not getting a nice disc in a box. You're not getting some stickers and a colored manual. You're not getting any of that stuff anymore. And then you have these digital only games on PC where they are doing this. Like, what exactly is $250 worth, really? What, some digital guns? Some digital, ammo and pocket? Like, the advertising pocket space. And like, I think there's friendly ways to go about it. So the video game Everspace 2, which launched in Game Pass last year, and in fact it's one of 2023's best video games. They recently came out with a supporter bundle or supporter pack. Like, it's a little piece of DLC. You get some skins and some starships, and it's literally support for the developer. And I'm completely fine with developers do that. I think it's like $10 or something. That's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine. You know, it's literally called supporter pack DLC, so you know what you're doing when you get it, but at least you're getting something in return. And just these developers, PC, console, no, mobile, whatever, they're trying to nickel and dime us at every opportunity, and it's sickening, really. It seems that we talk about game prices and publishers want to screw us over every week, but it's true. It's happening all the time. Um, I'm still bothered by this, by the way. A developer calling me cheap 2 weeks ago. Like, come on. But yeah.
No, that would royally tick me off too. Like, yeah, that would really irk.
Well, the thing is, right, the reason why it bothers me so much and the reason why I talk about it so much is that. Oh, but before we continue, we have the first super chat of the day by Nick W. Thank you very much for the $4.99. He says, "I miss manuals. So do I. So do I.
Oh, and guides and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, like okay, let's take a trip down memory lane segment. Like, can you remember when you were a little kid and you got a brand new Game Boy game or Game Boy Advance game, and you're in the car on the way home. You open up the box and you look at the colored manual. Maybe it's for Pokemon Gold or something, Pokemon Ruby, and you're looking through that manual and you're so excited to play this game. And like we don't have that anymore. I remember The Witcher 2 on Xbox 360. It came with a mini quest guide that was basically a walkthrough guide. I think it came with a map poster and all that stuff, and like stickers, a CD, and that was just the base game. I think one of the main reasons why people have moved to digital, it's convenient, but I also think that like there's less value in the disc now because that disc is, let's face it, it's mainly a download key now. We don't get colored manuals anymore, and sometimes you get a piece of paper inside, and that's like a terms and conditions thing. And so much is being lost with that. But like for physical games, people felt like they were getting the value there, and now we don't have that with digital games. Not really. And I think it's sad. It's sad that we don't have that anymore. I think Nintendo are pretty much the only company that does that still. I think the last major game we get on console that will do that is GTA 6. That'll probably come with a map and all that stuff. Maybe some stickers. But it's sad to see, man. I know, and by the way, I'm for the environment. I recycle at every opportunity. We need to protect the environment. I'm not a hippie, but I'm realistic. But I want my paper manuals back. They were so cool back in the day, and I don't know, we were missing so much. But anyway, thank you for the $4.99, Nick W. It's a shame. It's like lost video game art. We don't get that stuff anymore. I don't like it. I don't like the future. It is what it is, I guess. But yeah, we're being nickeled and dimed by these companies all the time, and the thing is, they're going to continue to do this. These crazy bundles and all that stuff, and like, I put it like this: if we are shown like expansions in advance, like, hey, this developer's putting out this new single player game, and there's also expansions later, that is perfectly fine, right? But like now we get shown, hey, this game has an expansion pass, but we're not going to tell you what these expansions are yet. That I have a problem with. Like, I love the fact that Avatar Frontiers of Pandora is getting 2 expansions, but we don't know how big they are. It's a weird industry thing at the minute. I think even though the video game industry is like, 50, 60 years old or something, but right now, like, it's still going through teething issues. They don't know what they're doing. I see almost daily certain developers talking about how video game prices need to go up, even though they just went up. And bear in mind, that's on the developers to fix, the stupid high cost of development. That's not on us, consumers. That's not on us. They have to figure out a way of making games cheaper, and rather than bloating out these development costs to $200-300 million with, like, do you know 9,000 people worked on Diablo 4?
Geez, that's a small country.
Yeah, like 9, and I'm loving Diablo 4, by the way, but like 9,000 people, that's ridiculous. Like, that's half of my city, but it's crazy. Just I hope people don't fall for these stupid, editions of games, especially when they're digital only. Like, back at least on 360, if you got a expensive edition, it came with a really cool statue, right? Like, I remember I paid, I think it was £100 for Deus Ex Human Revolution on 360, and it came with a figurine of Adam Jensen, and that figurine alone cost £100. So you're essentially getting a free game with this figure, and that made sense. That was actually worth something, but just the cost of these things are going up. It's sad. It's ridiculous. Anyway, we'll move on. Just want things to go back to normal when it comes to video. Realistically, I just want the gaming industry to return to the seventh generation, right? Put out these games that they cost less money to make. There's more risk, but hey, like we were getting fresh games all the time. We weren't getting the same experience every 5 seconds. I could talk for like, I think Logan could as well. We could talk for hours just about how like the 360 generation was just so superior in every way.
We have to go back.
Yeah, if I had a time machine, I'd go back so hard. It was so easier back then. Anyway, we'll move on. Okay, this game was announced about 3 hours ago, and when I saw the name, I didn't like it. When I saw what I thought it was about, I didn't like it. And this is a game called Funko Fusion. Now, a lot of gamers tend to collect Funko Pops. I don't know why. It just happens. Maybe because, there's a pop culture type
It's
thing.
the eyes.
Yeah, that like the eyes, like, and if people like a certain IP, you guarantee that there's a Funko Pop of it. I mean, I'd be lying. I've got about what 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 5 Funko Pops, right? 4 Star Wars, 1 Mass Effect. And they're cool. But anyway, gamers collect these things, and there's this thing called Funko Fusion came out. It just announced, and it's a third-person action game where you can play it solo or in co-op. And it's basically made by Universal and a team of ex-Lego developers. I'm not going to lie, the game looks good. There's all sorts of IPs from Battlestar Galactica, Back to the Future, Jurassic Park, Masters of the Universe, that type of thing. Logan, did you see that at all? It was only announced about 3 hours ago.
Yeah, I saw a little bit of it, and honestly, it looks fun to me. I like these toys come to life type games, whether it was like Toy Soldiers or the Indian in the Cupboard movie, or you know, the Funko Gears game that was on mobile for a little bit. I enjoy this kind of stuff, so yeah, it's right up my alley.
Yeah, it looks fun, but my first, and this is me being a gamer jumping to conclusions. When it was first announced, I was thinking, oh, this is basically a microtransactions game. Turns out that's not the case. So if people are interested in a licensed game with Funko Pops, it's coming out this September. It looks pretty good, and the fact that you can play it in single player, hey, not gonna lie, I'm probably gonna get a day on, and I think it's a budget title. I think it's gonna be like $40 or something. So hey, that's something new there. Why not? Now, by the way, the reason why we're running through so many topics so fast is because we have 19 topics, and I don't think I have a few listed. So there is that. Okay, where are we at? Okay, Manor Lords, a game recently launched on PC. It's absolutely massive on PC right now. It's a city building game slash RTS set in the medieval times. The game looks fantastic. Now, I only find out yesterday that it's coming to Xbox at some point. Xbox consoles, it's going to be on Xbox Game Pass. Personally, I think we need more of these games on, Xbox and, console in general. Logan, did you see this at all? Because I know you like PC-centric games as well.
Yeah, this once again, this is another game that looks right up my alley. I love RTS stuff, and especially in the medieval setting and the idea of kind of an Age of Empires, but different spin, and just this whole environment and the way they have it set up and everything looks really fun. And the fact that it's coming to Game Pass, I can check it out. And you're well versed in RTS as well. Like, that there are certain RTS that are like quote complicated, and then some that are pretty more streamlined. And you can check it out for yourself in Game Pass. And if this is one of those that's like a really hardcore, complicated one, and you don't want to spend the time and the dedication it takes to do it, and you're just like, dude, I just want a fun time of moving a few troops around or building a city or whatever, then Game Pass is a great way to go, man, I'm really glad I didn't blow that money on this. Or if you're really into that kind of thing and it ends up being that way, then it's just super awesome. So, once again, perfect title for Game Pass.
Yeah, and I think, whenever this kind of topic comes up, I always get like, oh, it's niche. Uh, the truth is, I think the Xbox community in general are very PC centric now. Um,
Hmm.
if you go on the Xbox store, there's PC centric games coming to Xbox consoles all the time, and I think people are just kind of used to it now. If I'm looking on the Xbox store right now, the highest rated game on all of Xbox right now, Logan, could you guess what it is?
The highest rated?
The highest rated game on Xbox yet.
Um, I would guess Age of Empires 4 Definitive.
Close. City Skylines.
Ah, City Skylines. Okay, I was close.
Yeah, like that is the highest rated game, and that is not an easy game. That is not easy by any stretch of the imagination, and it's a very PC centric game. But a lot of like the top 25 games are PC games, basically. Uh, and I've been trying to tell developers this for years. There's a huge market for RTS games on console, and like you said, Logan, there's certain games that just do not work on like a controller. I keep port begging Homeworld 3 because I played 1 and 2 back in the day on PC in the early 2000s.
Psycho behavior.
Yeah, and like I know for a fact it would not work on a controller, but I'm port begging it anyway. Um, but like Manor Lords makes sense. That game looks super impressive. The individual units have so much detail. The fact that you can make these really detailed and intricate towns, like I love that. And I love the fact that we are getting more coming to console, and I think that goes along with like the whole JRPG thing, which I end up arguing with someone each week. It's like there's a market for like these types of games on Xbox, like JRPGs, RTS games, sim games. Like if you go on an Xbox store right now, there's a sim game for everything. There's Truck Simulator, US and Europe Simulator. There's obviously Goat Simulator, Surgeon Simulator. There's Limo Driving Simulator. There's like a simulator for everything, and those games basically started on PC. So hey, I love the fact that basically one of the biggest games in the genre is coming to Xbox. It's popping off on Steam, Manor Lords, should I say. I think it had over 150,000 concurrent players, which I've never seen for a city builder slash RTS. Absolutely crazy. But hey, looks like that's coming. They didn't specify when, but I think it might be coming this year. If the developers get back to me at some point, I'll report on that. But yeah, Manor Lords looks fantastic. If people haven't really kept up to date with it, pay attention to it. It looks amazing. Keep Cat Quest Game of the Year. I always say that. Honestly, I think Cat Quest's going to be good. I'm not going to lie. People need to branch out, play something different. It looks good. You know what? Let's talk about the Square Enix stuff right now because it's been popping off today. So yeah, myself and Square Enix have a weird relationship. I love a lot of their games. They have some amazing IP. Dragon Quest, Final Fantasy, Kingdom Hearts. They sold off the Western ones, which I cared about, which that's a topic for another day. Now, a lot of people have been kind of going all over the place with the reporting today, and some websites aren't really talking about it properly. So basically, Square Enix have a massive operating loss. They're having to either cancel or scale back projects that are already in development, which is sad to see because, Square Enix, they have a lot of titles in development right now. A lot of which I know for a fact are going to come to Xbox. Final Fantasy 9 Remake, that's coming to Xbox. Guarantee you it. But it looks like a few things have been scaled back. If you notice that Square Enix doesn't really put out smaller games now, or at least not many of them. Hell, we didn't even get the Pixel remasters on Xbox, which boggles my mind. But it's Square Enix digging themselves their own grave because they keep making these exclusivity deals in an age where, like Microsoft is saying exclusivity is not needed for everything. Sony's even said exclusivity is not necessarily making sense right now for everything. And as scary as it might be for some people, like things going multi-platform is clearly happening. Final Fantasy shouldn't be exclusive to PlayStation. It really shouldn't. It's a third-party platform. Like if Square Enix was owned by PlayStation, I wouldn't even mention this. I wouldn't even bother. But it's the fact that Square Enix keeps making these deals. They're limiting themselves to not just the entire PlayStation audience. They limit themselves to a small section of the PlayStation audience. Like, hell, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth didn't even launch on PC at the same time. That's crazy. It should be on everything. It should be on Switch 2 whenever that's out, Xbox, but it's Square Enix making these moves and it's not helping them. Square Enix has made multiple massive bad moves over the past 20 years. They put a crap ton of money into a Final Fantasy movie back in the early 2000s, Final Fantasy The Spirits Within. By the way, if I'm being honest, I actually like that film.
I do too. I really enjoyed it.
Like, as a sci-fi fan, it hits all the right notes. You basically have...
It's so weird, but I loved
Yeah,
it.
it's weird because it doesn't resemble Final Fantasy in any way. You have Alec Baldwin phoning it in, and it's kind of cool. I'm not gonna lie. I kind of want to watch it again now. But yeah, basically they spent way too much money on that film when it came to marketing and production, and Sony had to bail them out. So like they had exclusivity to Final Fantasy for almost 20 years outside of 15 and some smaller titles, and that's why in 2019 you saw a lot of older ones come over. So Final Fantasy 10, 10-2 remaster, 12, 7, 8, probably missing one off, World of Final Fantasy Maxima, all came to Xbox. And they were all announced at the same time. So like that was a really big deal, because they paid off their debt apparently to Sony, allegedly. And they just keep making these exclusivity deals. And exclusivity deals, it's not exactly out of the normal. Sony's been doing this for 30 years. They've been doing it since the original PlayStation. It's a business practice. But I think for Square Enix, it just doesn't make sense anymore. Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth clearly cost a lot of money to make, and just limiting themselves to a small pool of people doesn't make sense anymore, especially in 2024. FF7 is a household name. To people that say it wouldn't sell on Xbox, you're out of your mind. It would sell on Xbox because it's Final Fantasy VII. Like, anyone can see a picture of Cloud and Sephiroth and know who the hell they are. It doesn't matter how old they are. It doesn't matter where they're from. They know them characters, right? It just is that way. Like, Logan, what's your take on the whole, like, Square Enix thing today? Because, them shutting down and stopping development of smaller games, but, like, they clearly need to move away from this whole exclusivity thing.
Yeah, like we said last time, I think if they could go back and change it, they would on exclusivity deals. Like the whole Lando Calrissian, like this deal gets worse all the time. It it might have made sense once upon a time, but clearly different market, different environment, times changed, everything's shifted, and it's been pretty disastrous to be honest. Like yes, that they've been well received and well liked by people, but for some reason it's just not hitting the same oomph or hit the turbocharge that it needs to. And artificially limiting it to one console ecosystem and maybe a few years later a PC port has been a massive disservice for an iconic brand that was never 100%, you know, exclusive like first party basis type title. Like people forget that yes, it was originally Nintendo associated for a long time before Sony money had it that. Tomb Raider used to be with Sega and like the Saturn and stuff like that for a little bit until Sony money had it that. And then, Crash Bandicoot, Spyro the Dragon, all like before now they're with Xbox, which is hilarious to think about. But Yeah, it's just it is what it is. I think that's a big reason why they have a new man in charge. Just like, lo and behold, Sony's getting a new man in charge. Things change. They have to get with the times. And I think their friendlier stance with Xbox is a direct result of finally getting some new voices in the room and realizing, man, we really this up. This was really bad idea. And they're fixing it, and I think we will see going forward. I don't think there will be a Xbox exclusionary practice from them.
Yeah, I think going forward, a lot of their games is going to start coming over. Like Kingdom Hearts 4 is going to be their next major announcement. It comes out next year, and it's probably going to be announced on the Xbox stage. Microsoft has had a few different like JRPGs in the past on their big A3 showcase. So like, I'm putting this out there. I think that Final Fantasy 16 and Kingdom Hearts 4 will be on their showcase. Um, in all fairness, those are pretty safe bets. But I think that Microsoft, they want more Japanese games to come over. There is a market for them. Like for every person that says these games don't sell, by the way, they tend to forget that most Yakuza games don't launch in Game Pass. Shin Megami Tensei 5 comes out this June on Xbox. It's not coming to Game Pass. The brand new Atlas IP, which comes out later this year, and it looks bloody amazing. Metaphor Refantasio, and I didn't butcher the name that time. That game looks incredible, and it's not going to be in Game Pass. So like, there's clearly enough people buying these games on Xbox to justify the port costs. Every time these topics come up, I always get the whole, maybe Square Enix should do it if there's enough resources. But we can port games to the Kindle. We can port games to the Switch and basically everything else, multiple different PC platforms. And I don't know, man. It's weird because as a person that grew up with Square Enix and Final Fantasy and that, like I want them to succeed. People don't want Square Enix to fail. They don't. They just want them to be able to buy their games. And every time this topic comes up, someone will always say, "But Final Fantasy games don't sell on Xbox." The first mainline Final Fantasy game on Xbox was 13. Completely split the player base. But every time I talk about 13, I get, "Hey, it's trash." And it's always someone that has like an anime profile picture because that person likes JRPGs. And even those people do not like 13. By the way, I do like 13. um, even though that game has some insanely ridiculous difficulty jumps. And then we got 15 in 2016, 2017. And that game was very divisive, and I actually kind of liked 15, even though the boss battles in that game were infuriatingly difficult. But like those two split the player base, and like that's it for Xbox. And every other game we got were these weird offshoot games. You have Final Fantasy Type Zero, which caused people to get motion sickness. I'm not even joking. We got Final Fantasy Strangers of Paradise, which is a weird game. We got Crisis Core, the prequel to the Final Fantasy VII remake. By the way, I talk about Crisis Core all the time. I think Crisis Core Reunion is a phenomenal game. It may actually be my favorite Final Fantasy game outside of 10. But again, weird offshoot game. We just don't get the mainline ones. And I think it would be beneficial for Microsoft at some point to maybe just sign a deal with Square Enix to get the next 10 years of Final Fantasy games. Not necessarily exclusive. I'm not dumb, but like to come to the console, because like Square Enix, they really need to change something. They've already changed a lot. They sold off pretty much all of their Western studios to embrace most of the Western IP. Although they kept Gex the Gecko out of everything. Whatever.
Just Square things.
Yeah, Square is a weird company. And again, I want them to succeed, but hey, I mean, if they put 7 on Xbox and 16, like, I will buy them. I'll buy them the day they release. I'll even try and do some gifting on the channel. But I think Square Enix, they need to get with the times. You see Sega making money off multi-platform releases. Bandai Namco, they making more multi-platform releases. Like Sandland recently dropped on Xbox. I think it just came out Friday, I think. And like, they having success with it. So they need to continue with that formula. And I think one of the biggest things people can point to is Elden Ring. It's a Japanese game. It sold over 22 million copies in, a year? And a lot of those copies were also on Xbox. So it's like, there's clearly a market. Just people need to stop gatekeeping. The gatekeeping is not helping at all. And we see it on Twitter. People love gatekeeping for some reason, Final Fantasy specifically. Because I can go on Twitter right now and see Persona fans in the Xbox fan base, Yakuza fans in the Xbox fan base. But Final Fantasy fans, they are just the worst. They are really wanting to like gatekeep this franchise for some reason, and I just don't understand it. The games look fantastic. Let more people play them. Square Enix isn't owned by Sony, so who's at a loss? It's a weird time, and I think things will change. I think this summer people will be really shocked with what's shown at the Xbox showcase, which we'll be talking about in a bit. I'll talk about this quickly. So Alan Wake 2, phenomenal game. It's one of the 6 games I've ever gave a 10 out of 10. And I think more people need to play it. Well, it turns out it still hasn't broke even, which is an absolute travesty. When that game came out, I was sure that it would sell like, Resident Evil 8 numbers or something like that. I thought it would sell maybe like 5 million, 6 million or something, but they've sold just over 1 million copies. They're about to break even, apparently. They still have 2 expansions coming out, but it's so sad to see that.
That is insane to me.
Yeah, it's insane. Like, that game is so good. It's probably one of the most polished games I've ever played. It's a horror experience unlike anything I've ever played. And when Alan Wake 2 was first shown off, I did not like what I saw. I wanted my traditional Alan Wake game. But when I played 2, I was floored. Brilliant experience. There's no horror game like it. And like, I'm shocked because horror games have been popping off for the past few years. And I was sure that the Resident Evil fan base surely would have went for this game. Or like the Silent Hill fan base. But no. Like, Logan, what do you think of that? Because we both played Alan Wake when it came out. Alan Wake 2. It's phenomenal. And it just seems like nothing really moved the needle with Alan Wake.
Yeah, it's insane to me, just point blank. It is one of the best games I've ever played. It is one of the best stories I've ever experienced, worlds I've experienced in a game. The characters are phenomenal. The story is phenomenal. The gameplay is phenomenal. The puzzles are phenomenal. The story, the branching decisions, the replayability, the expansions coming. It's just mastercraft all around, and it just, I don't know. This might sound like a crazy hot take, but I honestly wonder if maybe the way they positioned it in the market or advertised it or whatever, maybe it came off too much like a thinking man's game, or like like one of those smarter than thou, or kind of like art house, like maybe it was just positioned in phrasing or something to where it turned some people off, or people just didn't know what to expect going in. Because like, from a sheer game and everything in it and everything about it and everything it represents, that's a game that should be, obviously it wouldn't put up GTA numbers, but I'm saying from a quality standpoint it should. So it's just really sad to see. I'm glad they're still devoted to the franchise and the Alan Wake universe with Control and Alan Wake, Quantum Break, all those. But yeah, that's just incredibly disheartening, and it makes you really bummed out when games like that are selling bare minimum, and like Ubisoft, like I have my beefs with how they've been doing some things, but the latest Prince of Persia that they made, fantastic. Didn't sell worth a flying flip for whatever reason. So I don't know. Maybe it's the common market, the new generation are just into more straightforward, not like deeply analytical exposition pieces. I don't know.
You mentioned Prince of Persia. When that game came out, I know we're talking about Alan Wake, but when that game came out, I think that game came out at like £40 in the UK. Um, and like people looked at that thinking like, no, I'm not buying that. Um, and the thing about Alan Wake is it came out like a quote unquote discount price, AAA game, but I think it was £45 or £49. And like I saw a lot of people talk about like, oh, it's price, that's a really good price for a game like that. But like some people were just really put off for like dumb reasons or reasons that don't even make sense. Um, Remedy, they are probably one of the best developers in the industry. If you look at what they're making right now, and a bunch of their games go into production very soon. Oh, before we continue, we have another super chat by Nick W for $4.99. Thank you very much. It says message retracted. Okay. Just if you can write that again, just in chat, Nick, I'll read it out because it says message retracted. Never seen that before. But yeah, Remedy have a bunch of like things like coming out in the next few years. Max Payne 1 and 2, they have a full-on remake coming. Full-on remake. And like that's going to be one game. They're not going to try and nickel and dime people and have like two separate remakes. It's going to be one big game. You have Concord, which is it's going to be a co-op game set in the Control universe. And as someone that doesn't really play co-op games, that even interests me. You have Control 2, which is starting production soon. And you also have two expansions that are coming to Alan Wake 2 as well. So it's crazy to think that like that game just didn't make the money it needed. Thankfully, they signed a publishing deal with Epic, and they have some fun. Like, I don't like Tencent. A lot of people don't like Tencent because there's clearly something going on there, but like they are given a lot of funding to Remedy, so hey, I'm actually okay with that. It's weird to see such a great game not sell. It blows my mind. It reminds me of how when Blade Runner 2049 bombs, you know,
Mhm.
like that made no sense. We have another super chat by Nick W for $4.99. He says, "What didn't help Alan Wake 2 was that it didn't release for Steam." That's a good point. I completely forgot about that.
Oh
Epic,
yeah, Epic Games Store exclusive.
yeah, I completely forgot about that. Well, that's it. That doesn't help. Like horror games pop off on Steam, and you have like the Epic Game Store. Like I have a huge library of games because I claim all the free stuff. Because why not? But like I always see a lot of distaste towards Epic Game Store. Like I'm not a PC gamer, so I can't really say much about it. But like Steam, people clearly prefer Steam to have all the games in one place. So like to not have it on the biggest PC store, yeah, that's probably the reason right there. If I remember correctly, these deals that Epic has with these companies, they tend to be a year. So like hopefully if they get it on Steam this year, it can sell like pretty well on there. But man, I really don't understand like who these Epic Game Store deals benefit because you have Steam that has like over 100 million, users, and you have Epic Game Store, which I'm not gonna lie, I've never heard anyone talk about in a positive way. Like strange decision, but maybe that's how they were able to get the game out in the first place. But yeah, and also the fact that it wasn't a physical game. There's still a contingent of people
Mm.
that prefer physical games. Like people told me straight up, "Hey Jamie, I love Alan Wake 1, but I'm not getting it because it's not physical. And, hey, I mean, I'm not going to tell someone how to spend the money. I would have loved a physical collector's edition of this. It's 2024 and we still don't have official figurines of Alan Wake. How's that a thing?
Wow.
And I've looked, by the way, you can't buy them. You can buy 3D printed models off Etsy, but that's it. But yeah, anyway, thank you for the $4.99, Nick. It's the whole Epic Game Store deal. I don't know what they were thinking with that. What a crazy time. And I hope Remedy, like, they have something, like, Remedy has this weird thing where they make these amazing games and they don't succeed. Control, great game, absolutely great game, great expansions, and it didn't really, it sold well, but nobody really talked about it after a month, which is weird. Quantum Break was wrapped up in controversy because of the resolution being 720p checkerboard. Alan Wake came out the same week as Red Dead Redemption. They are a victim of, like, circumstance. Amazing games, wrong time. Amazing games, weird business decisions. Like, I think one of the things I heard Control as well is that they didn't put out a free next gen upgrade. It was locked behind the Ultimate Edition, which people couldn't upgrade for, so you had to buy a completely new copy because that was 505's decision as a publisher. But it's sad, man. I love Remedy. I want them to have the biggest success. Like, hell, they are making Max Payne 1 and 2 remake, and Rockstar's publishing the game, and Rockstar is suing Remedy because of their logo that looks like a bullet. It's so stupid. Like, what are they thinking? Hey, I don't know. It's strange. It's strange to see these publishers just make weird moves. I don't know. Now, Logan, you want to talk about Spyro the Dragon because something's going on there.
Yeah, it just, there seems to be a lot of faith in the Spyro community, that online at least, that maybe something Spyro will be at the showcase. I don't know if that'll happen or not, but I've just been seeing a lot of that sentiment lately. And Activision keeps posting random Spyro things like every week, which it keeps adding more and more. And then obviously Jez Corden at Windows Central, and then the Canadian guy YouTube um, persona with his sources, have talked about that Spyro 4 is in development, and it's a thing at Toys for Bob. And it wouldn't shock me if we see at least maybe even just a color screen or something at the showcase, but it seems like there's a lot of stuff in the air about Spyro. And it got me thinking that, with the 360 store closing in, July, I went back and looked, and there's actually a decent amount of Spyro and Crash games that weren't in those remastered trilogies that are on Xbox or 360. And now that you own Activision, who also owned Sierra, who made some of these as well, you've got the rights to these games. Like, surely you can get these first party mascot games onto the platform via backwards compatibility, and then also put them in the Game Pass. And man, that is like a family friendly gaming bonanza. Like a whole bunch of games. Plus people our age who are nostalgic for that time period. It seems like a no brainer, and time's ticking on that with the store, and just with the Spyro buzz in the air, it seems like a good time.
Yeah, I think something will be happening because it's such an easy money making move. 3D platformers don't really, like, we still get them, the, like, smaller indie titles, but I think Spyro fans have waited long enough. It's like what I think you said last week. It's been 23 years since the last one, which is crazy. um, we're not including, like, spin-offs and stuff. And like you said, the whole backwards compatibility thing. I think one of them is called Clash of the Titans or Wrath of the Titans or something like that. Um,
Hmm.
and I played that one back in the day on 360. That's actually pretty fun. Uh, I know we always talk about the backwards compatibility at some point, but it does seem that certain things are lining up. Certain people at Xbox not really like. There's so many people talking about backwards compatibility alone that no one from Xbox has actually dismayed it. You know, they haven't said, "Oh no extra batches coming." Like Logan, have you noticed that no one has said that the Activision thing isn't happening?
Yeah, no one has disputed it. No one has come out and gone, no, no, what that email was about was purely, just making sure the things that are already done going forward and this and that, or, we're not even gonna attempt to mess with Activision Blizzard stuff. We're done totally. Like, all the times before that they've been done were before they made a major acquisition, and then lo and behold, you have all the licenses, the talent, the studios, the games themselves, everything, to where it's no longer having to negotiate with a whole bunch of parties. It's like you, yourself, and I. It's just you just get it done. So I think they'll I think we will see some. If it doesn't happen, I would be surprised.
Yeah, not outside the BC stuff. It kind of just makes sense that there is new games coming because Toys for Bob they're working on Spyro. They basically all but confirmed it. They've been working on something for a while outside of that stuff. So like, who knows what's going to happen when it comes to Spyro and Crash? But I think fans have been waiting long enough. Because again, almost 2 decades or more than 2 decades for Spyro. I think it's time for a new game. Reignited trilogy got listed on the Windows Store, so that's probably going to be on Game Pass soon. Um, I think we'll be talking about the showcase in a bit, but I think like this showcase specifically is going to be absolutely massive for people that want back catalog stuff and Game Pass stuff because there's a lot of content there, a lot of content, and it's going to be a weird day because that's going to be a lot to cover. Anyway, we'll move on. By the way, about an hour into the show. If you're enjoying it, please like, share, and subscribe. It really does help the channel out, and I don't like doing these ads because, well, I'm British and doing self-promotion isn't something that we're good at. Super Chats are live if you want to support the show and want anything read out or answered. Anyway, it's always appreciated. You know what? Starfield. Starfield came out last year. Weirdly enough, it was the new game by Bethesda that for some reason broke the camel's back when it came to the formula. They said that they didn't like the formula anymore, even though all that people are talking about right now is Fallout. And you have Starfield. Like, Starfield has a lot of quality of life features that the Fallout games don't have. It's very much of, like, we could be honest, Starfield is basically Fallout in space. So,
Yep.
like the fact that people were actively against it blew my mind. Like, Starfield is a great game. Is it perfect? No, but then again, no game's perfect. And like Starfield was so much fun to just like travel the stars, go from planet to planet. Um, and there's obviously stuff they're gonna add. Anyway, Todd Howard in an interview the other day came out and said that Shattered Space, the massive expansion for, or I should say, the first massive expansion for Starfield is coming out fall this year. The game's also going to have a bunch of features added, things people have been wanting. There's stuff about vehicles that we've heard about, which is really cool. We'll be talking about. But also, he mentioned display options. Now, that one kind of got people really interested. Uh, like Logan, what's your thought on the whole like expansion coming this year and the whole display options thing?
Yeah, I'm super stoked for Shattered Space. As someone who bought the Constellation Edition, I get the expansions, so I'm very excited for them. And I'm really intrigued to see where they go story wise, because I have a feeling this is going to be pretty meaty amount of content that they're going to be adding. Maybe deal with House Varun, since they were kind of always in the shadows, but you knew they were there and they're big time, but they didn't go too far into their storyline. So I reckon it might have something to do with that. And apparently, Todd also mentioned that there's going to be a bunch of quality of life stuff and an update within the next few days, including city maps, finally, and some shipbuilding stuff, and just overall like enhancements. So I'm looking forward to it big time.
You know, it's kind of funny you mentioned the map. I don't know who thought those maps for the cities were a good idea. Like,
Oh, they're
yeah,
awful.
awful maps. Like people say Jedi Fallen Order had a bad map. They clearly haven't played Starfield in a city. Like, if you're on a moon or just a planet outside of a city, the map's perfectly fine. It shows you the base terrain. But if you're in a city in Starfield, there's nothing there that guides you anywhere. You basically just have to kind of guess. Um, so like that's obviously the big thing they can fix, and obviously there's the vehicle thing. You know, you go to a moon, you see something off in the distance. Um, your biggest bet is to
Takes
just
10 years to get there.
yeah, you can just like hop in slow motion, or you can try and get the ship to land closer, but you can miss that thing by miles and not be able to walk there. So, um, I think we're probably going to get like a buggy. They've kind of hinted at something like that. Um, I know people have said that the engine can't do that. I don't believe that. If we can have a spaceship traveling through space and have planets that orbit stars and planets that spin, like I do not think that a space buggy is going to break the engine. I just don't believe it. And you can actually hop around those planets pretty quick if you use the jetpack in a specific way. So no, I don't believe it. Um, but like even like, and if people are playing Starfield right now, I highly recommend people go to this thing on the phone on a PC called Starfield Radio. A bunch of fans for Starfield made this like custom made radio like website where it's a bunch of licensed songs. I don't know how they can get that on there, but like there's a bunch of like talk shows and stuff. And I think for me, a big problem for Starfield was that there was no radio. Like the coolest thing about Starfield, or I should say Fallout, for me was when you're walking around the wasteland and you're listening to the radio and hearing about the stories of the people that live there. That's really cool, and I think Starfield could do it. Like, Logan, did you miss that at all? Like not having a radio station?
Come to think about it, I did. I remember one of my favorite things in all the Bethesda games that I ever experienced was Mad Dog on Capital Wasteland Radio from Fallout 3. And just walking around and he like howls and then he talks about like the local news and like you can get some pointers for some side quests, or he would basically recap some big events that you had done and like talk about how you're going either further down the dark side or you're becoming the savior of the wasteland and stuff. Or like GTA with their so many radio stations. Like, come to think about it, it would be cool for them to add that to a game and, like Guardians of the Galaxy a little bit, just like music is important.
Yeah, and like you said, the whole House Varun thing. Like I was shocked that we didn't get to see I didn't actually play that quest line. Did you actually get to go to the home world for House Varun?
No. I'll tread carefully in case people haven't gotten there, but you encounter some high-ranking agents of House Varun, not the top of the hierarchy or the religious or whatever, but some agents from there that tie in with Andrea, your companion, and her backstory. And not gonna dive too deep into that, but you do encounter some of them, and like also in that quest line that's basically like Aliens the movie but put into Starfield. With the You're basically like a mercenary for the government, and then you can earn citizenship. And like, there's a whole bunch of House Varun stuff thrown in there. But you never get to go to the homeworld, but I think Shattered Space is gonna deal with that.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really good expansion. I think a lot of Elder Scrolls and Fallout expansions are really good, so I don't think people have to worry there. Honestly, I think people have more excitement for the quality of life stuff over the the expansion, because like Starfield is an amazing game, but they could take that to a whole other level if they just like fix some minor things. Like I was talking about earlier in the show, Avatar was a great game anyway, and just the amount of quality of life features they've like fixed or put in since, it's basically a different game, and I think they could do that for Starfield as well. I will say this though, you can see the grifters online when it comes to Starfield. You type Starfield into the YouTube search bar, and it's just endless Starfield here. It's like, hey, I played Starfield after 6 months. I hate it, and it's like the amount of forced hate people put on that game is ridiculous because these people will say, "Hey, I'm playing Oblivion again in 2024," but yet Starfield, breaks the camel's back when it comes to the Bethesda formula. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. It's a lot of it seems forced, and people act like Starfield's the worst game ever made. Like that's just no, just stop it. But the thing is, it's clickbait. Starfield hate gets a lot of clicks because negativity in the gaming space, people just thrive on it. They love the drama. They love to see the hatred, and I'm not about that. I don't understand that. It's cringe, really. But yeah, Starfield, Shattered Space coming this year, and quality of life stuff. Again, I hope someone from the team's listening. I need a radio. Like, please. Like, you can have Spotify running in the background, on your Xbox with the app. That's fine. But like a radio where people are talking about things in the environment, that would just be so cool for me. Anyway, we'll move on. We've still got a crap load of topics left. Jesus, Logan, I know you want to talk about Perfect Dark. What the hell's going on there? Because a lot of people in my feed have been talking about it today.
Yeah, honestly, it's kind of a multi-pronged thing. Like, one, there's people who concern troll on the timeline about everything, anything. Like, there's an article that comes out or a rumor or something, and then people start sweating it and saying, "Oh, Xbox is doomed," or "This game is in trouble," or whatever. Like, it kind of started for me personally when I saw how some of the stuff with Tomb Raider, I know it's not Perfect Dark, but it's being handled by the same studio. It's, a reimagining of a classic icon. And I just, some of the stuff that's been going on with Tomb Raider had me a little trepid, at least, with how Perfect Dark was being handled, especially since we haven't heard or seen anything about it in such a long time. And then, Xbox 2 the other day, Jez and Rand were talking about it and how apparently, like behind the scenes has not been rosy. And, there's a lot of stuff going on with the just embracer like shenanigans, like having to deal with that. And like, is the company steady or not? And it's just not an easy development cycle. Hopefully it works out, but it's one I would keep an eye on because it's been a long time. We haven't heard anything about it, and for such a big title and for such a important reimagining reboot of a beloved game, like if you're one of those Metacritic worshippers, go back and look up Perfect Dark, the original one. It's one of the highest scoring games made. It was fantastic. So it has a lot of hype and pressure. It's just not a peep about it. It's just a little odd to me.
Yeah, I think the gaming environment's a bit weird at the minute, because wording can freak people out, or like developers like can put too much of their um what's the term I'm trying to look for that's safe for YouTube. They can try and inject too much of themselves into an IP where it wasn't necessarily there before, if that makes sense. And there's also the Embracer thing. Like Embracer, they own, like you said, Crystal Dynamics. They have to run everything by through them. Who knows how many people from Crystal is working on Perfect Dark as well, because all the developers from the initiative are basically from all over the place. So it's going to be a weird one. I think the game will be fine. Um, I think maybe we'll possibly see it this year. I think it's been long enough for Perfect Dark. Who knows? This wasn't really a topic, but I want to talk about it briefly. Is Logan, have you noticed the past week a lot of people are talking about game censorship?
Oh, would this happen to deal with cybernetically enhanced ninjas?
Yeah, it's and bear in mind, like I think a lot of it is overblown. Um, I just want to talk about this quickly because like my entire feed this past week is just people talking about censorship in video games. My thought on it is like video games have ratings for a reason. Over here you have 12, 15, 16, 17, and 18. I don't know why they stopped, moved away from the way movies do it, but the highest rating in the UK for a video game is an 18. You can have whatever you want in a rated 18 game. So to me, like I've never understood the point of censoring games. You should just put it behind a higher rating. So to see what Stellar Blade on PlayStation and that gets censored, I don't understand it. But the reaction to it has been really weird. You have people writing petitions, saying that they're cancelling the subscriptions and all this stuff, and you have journalists making fun of these people, and like I think the journalists aren't helping either. The journalists, like, think about it like this, right? A game developer makes a game with a character, Stellar Blade, right? And we can use other games like this, Tomb Raider, whatever. And a lot of people find that person attractive or that game character. And then journalists get really angry about it, write articles about how wrong it is, right? And then 5 seconds later, we will see those same journalists literally thirst over Hades 2 characters. Now, both of these games are made by people, but the journalists are reacting one way to one thing and one way to the other. And I think that the journalists are at fault here as much as like people that are freaking out about censorship on the console or Stellar Blade. And my entire feed this past week has just been censorship about Stellar Blade, and it's really annoying. But the journalists are just making it worse. I think video game journalists have played a big part of why gaming is a crap show at the minute. Like they aren't doing the job. They aren't being fair. They're very selective. Like I'll put it like this: these same people that are crying about Stellar Blade were happy that in Baldur's Gate 3 that you could do a bear. Am I the only person that sees the hypocrisy with that? Like where I'm from, that's illegal. That is something you don't want ever. And it's just weird to see. And I know like the gaming media in the US, for some reason, are very weird about things. And yeah, just wanted to mention that because like I'm from the UK. Like there's a lot of stuff going on in the world right now, and just seeing like these specific American game media outlets act this way, and they seem threatened by Stellar Blade and other games. Like they were complaining about how Lara Croft looked in the Tomb Raider games, but they're thirsting over Hades 2 cartoon characters. Like Logan, do you see an issue with that?
Yeah, I do. Frankly, I I'll just be blunt. It would be one thing to me if it was members of religious communities or, you know, oppressed, groups or survivors of this or that or whatever, people who have views or beliefs that truly adhere to them, that had issues with things and thought they were, you know, a little too upfront and close and personal or whatever, and would advise people of their followings or groups or practices to avoid those or something like that. Like that makes sense to me. I get it. But for gaming journalists are the about the last people on earth who should be paragons of virtue and virtue signaling anybody. Like like you said, there's Baldur's Gate, which is very upfront, personal about things, and not unabashedly at all, including things involving animals, multiples of things, like all kinds of like hardcore, just like this is not just whatever it like for them to go after that and Hades too and some of this other stuff, but then get mad that Laura happened to have a tank top and some Daisy Dukes and she went raiding a dungeon, or this ninja happens to be designed a certain way where culturally that culture seems to have less stringent views on things than some others. It seems crazy and hypocritical, and then you call them on it, and then they go hide in their little dungeons and caves and recesses hidden away from the light like they do. And it's just it's so annoying, it's so hypocritical. Like I said, if it was like, say a movie came out and it was a parody or dealt with things that offended a certain community, I would totally understand that community being like, hey, we don't like this, or please, to our people, don't support this. But for game journalists to be like this and to go about this is just, it's ridiculous. It's clown show behavior, and they're getting rightfully dragged for it.
Yeah, about mine, I don't have like a horse in this race. I don't have any intention of playing Stellar Blade. I don't have any intention of playing Hades 2. I just don't. But it's from like the outside looking in, it's weird seeing game journalists acting the way they are, and things I can't say on this channel, like things they've
Yeah,
said, things they're doing. It's disgraceful, really, and it's like people overreacting. It's just stupid like this. It's like it's just a game, you know. I know I was saying a minute ago that rated 18 is the highest rating in the UK, and you can put whatever you want in rated 18, anything, anything. That could be movies, television, video games, anything. And I know in the US it's different because adult ratings, like stores can't, a lot of stores can't have them or something. But we live in a digital era now, really. So like, who cares, you know? But that's why we have rating systems. And bear in mind, censorship has been a thing in video games for a long time in different ways. I know Fallout 3 wasn't available in Germany. Um, I know. I think Wolfenstein, the old the was it Wolfenstein the New Colossus, that wasn't available in Germany. I think two of the Wolfenstein games weren't even available in Australia. I think it was Wolfenstein. Um,
they had to change logos. Like instead of,
yeah,
traditional World War II era imagery, they did some eagle like things instead.
yeah, and like Australia, like a lot of games don't ship there physically, because of that, those laws. But it's weird. I don't know. It's weird to talk about these things because again, like there's when it comes to like YouTube content, you have to walk on eggshells when it comes to certain topics. So it's like a minefield, and I can't stand on any of them. And those minefields are specific words. But yeah, game journalists do better. Like I'm not a paid game journalist. I'm a YouTube content creator, and even I'm more professional than them, and that's sad. And that's just sad. Anyway, we'll move on back to game and stuff. So, Fallout. It's been a colossal success, as we were talking about earlier in the show. Fallout 4 next gen upgrade is popping to the point where, like, there's multiple Fallout titles in the top 10 top paid section on Xbox in the UK, US, Canada, and other countries, and it's like the one of the top selling games in Europe at the minute, like Fallout 4, that is, which is crazy. You know, it's a 9-year-old game, and it's selling so well again. Well, Todd Howard was recently asked in an interview, like, what's going on with Fallout, and it turns out, and I think we all could have suspected this, and I know Jez Corden from Windows Central's mentioned this, Microsoft really wants to fast track Fallout, and can you really blame them? you know, Fallout is arguably one of the most important IPs at the minute. Like 60, what was it, Logan? You said 65 million views.
Yeah, over 65 million in 16 days.
Like that's crazy. I don't even think Game of Thrones had those numbers. Like for the finale or whatever. But like Fallout's popping off, and Todd Howard was asked like what's happening, because Elder Scrolls is their next game, and that's coming in what we think maybe 2026. So it's still a while away. And like people have been joking on like, hey, Fallout 5 is realistically going to be 2032, which is depressing to say the least. But it turns out they really want to get these games out faster, but with the same quality. And like these games take a long time to make. And Todd Howard, for the first time in a while, he said he's open up to the idea of other studios making games. But after what happened with New Vegas, they kind of turned down other games in the franchise. So that's why we only had Fallout 3, New Vegas, and then 4 of the past, decade when it came to single player stuff. And it finally looks like, a TV show popping off as it did. Like Fallout games, even though they're all in Game Pass, they're selling really well. That we could potentially see other studios make Fallout games while we wait for Fallout 5. And we could potentially see a Fallout studio get made, because it would be nice to, not get a Fallout game every 15 years, or 10 years or whatever. And like this is a good thing for Microsoft. They realizing that there's a huge fan base ready for more titles. And like Logan, what's your take on this? Because Fallout, again, it's the biggest IP at the minute.
Yeah, it's honestly, I think they should pour nitrous, pour rocket fuel, like whatever, like high velocity turbocharge. Just get this thing up and running light speed, like pronto yesterday, for more Fallout content, because 65 million just off the top like that, and then counting, all the games are doing better than ever. It's just insane. So many people um just into the universe. Like I watched the series with someone who had never experienced the games at all, and they were completely enthralled and were asking questions, and like so what is this, and like oh so so that means this, and like make trying to connect dots and being completely engrossed with this. And this is from people who had never experienced it at all. Like it is a full on global phenomenon, and you just cannot in good faith, as a steward of an IP or franchise, just sit on your hands and go, well, crap, I got two teams to work with, and yeah, well, they're busy. Guess we're gonna have to wait till they're done. Like, no, that's just not gonna cut it. Like, you are basically the Roman Empire of gaming right now. You have all these studios, all these developers, all these things spread across the globe. You have more money than just about anybody on the face of the earth, and you have a strong desire for it. Get it done. And I think they will. The fact that Todd himself, which I really liked, he brought it up and he said we are open to working with external studios, and he mentioned that there are people within even Xbox that they have a good relationship with about it. Like he mentioned Obsidian by name and their studio head Fergus. And In Exile has one of the original Fallout creators in Fargo. And so, right there, you have two studios off the top of your head that could handle a Fallout game. And he also dismissed, which I thought was important, the idea of bad blood between Obsidian and Bethesda. Like, there's this weird thing about Bethesda and Obsidian, and like people always trying to create some rift. And there may have been things in the past, but as of right now, things are good. And he's saying, like, people forget we did publish the game, we approved it, we put it out there, we let them do it, we let them make it, we didn't purposely sabotage it, I didn't retcon it in the story, we actually took adherence to the events of it and made sure it worked. So the fact that he on record said that they're open to that and he mentioned Obsidian and leadership by name, I think is a great sign. Sorry, that was really long winded, but it was an important topic.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It makes sense. I think that like they can't rush any of these games. It just doesn't make sense. But now they have the studios to put out more games. Like I think Nick W last week in chat said that like why not like remaster or remake the first two games, the isometric titles. You know, give them modern quality of life features, and like I would play them. I would totally
Mm-hmm.
play them. You know, I can't see them being massive projects that would take like 4 or 5 years to do. You know, there's plenty of port and remaster studios around that could do that. Um, I think that like Fallout is popping off so much right now. Like for Microsoft as an organization to like step back and go, okay, we need to do something. You know, like I kind of I've always tell Microsoft to not be so reactionary, but I'd say this is a case where it's actually a good thing. Um, and like there is the Fallout remaster slash remake. Uh, According to that leak last year by the FTC documents, it should be coming out next year. If like nothing's changed, it should be coming out next year. Um, we could potentially see that being announced at the Xbox showcase. Um, but like to have this IP pop off so much. Again, we were saying earlier in the show, I've never seen a like Logan. Have you ever seen a video game adaptation cause this much of a surge in like game sales and talk?
I mean, I've seen instances of it, but not to this scale. Like when Last of Us the show came out, there was a surge in interest of The Last of Us and The Last of Us remastered and a remake. And then when Mario came out, people talked a lot about Mario, but there wasn't necessarily like Mario sales. Anytime there's been a big Pokemon movie, there's been, Pokemon boosts. But in general, most of the game adaptations we've had up to this point were not exactly great. Film or show adaptations. The Castlevania was a notable exception. It's brilliant, but for the most part, Last of Us and Fallout are the first like major like whoa, okay, and we see success. Last of Us, great job and boosted things. Fallout, superb, and just quantum leaps in interest for the franchise. So yeah, this should be like a nanosecond green lit, get this thing rolling kind of decision making for them.
Yeah, I think like no matter what they've done at the showcase, which we'll be talking about in a minute, like I think Microsoft they will mention Fallout any amount of times they can. Fallout like they might end up
Mm-hmm.
having Phil Spencer on stage at some point, just say Fallout 100 times, just to get that trending. But like they need to do something about Fallout, and that needs to happen fairly soon. Let's talk about the Xbox showcase, which officially got announced today. It's going to be another double showcase. So you're going to have the Xbox game showcase. I think it said June 9th. And straight afterwards, there's going to be another event, which they call Redacted. Now, I've seen a lot of talk about.
Call of Duty.
Yeah. A lot of people are wondering like what it is. It's Call of Duty. It's like one,
It's the Cerberus logo.
yeah, it's a Cerberus logo. Two, that's the Call of Duty font. like for like descriptions in Black Ops. It's Black Ops Gulf War this year, and some people are wondering like, why would you do your own event for Call of Duty? It's like Call of Duty, whether people like it or not, is the biggest game on the planet every year, most years. Last year was a weird one because Hogwarts Legacy was it. If GTA is out some year, that's going to be the biggest game. But if it's not those two, it's Call of Duty, and this is a huge year because Call of Duty is back on Xbox for marketing. It's going to be the first Call of Duty title to launch in Game Pass. It's a new Black Ops title, and I think gamers have been waiting a while for a new Black Ops game. I think the last Black Ops game was in fact 2020. Yeah, with the launch of the consoles, Black Ops Cold War, and last year's campaign for Modern Warfare 3. As much as I liked it, I had fun with it. It was a short campaign, and you could tell it was an expansion. You could so tell that was an expansion. And I think this game is meant to have like the biggest zombie mode yet. I know the zombie community in Call of Duty were very disappointed with last year's like updates. The multiplayer, people want fresh maps and like new kinds of weapons and stuff. Like this is going to be the biggest year for Call of Duty, I think, since 2019. It's going to be a huge year. Absolutely huge year. And Cold War, the last Black Ops game, that was a really cool campaign. So, like, Call of Duty is obviously going to have its own thing. Call of Duty tends to get two different events. We tend to get shown the campaign in the May or June, and then we get shown the multiplayer in August. So, depending on what they're doing here, we could see multiplayer and campaign in the first showcase in over a decade, really. So, Call of Duty hype, it's going to be massive this year. Now, when it comes to the Xbox showcase, like Microsoft's been slowly teasing this Xbox showcase since late last year. At every interview, they're talking about how they have already got things planned. They announced some big things last year, like Fable last year blew everyone away. When they confirmed that was in fact gameplay in engine, I think this could be an excellent... Like, Microsoft, they already have a huge year ahead. Hellblade 2 is around the corner. Avowed launches later this year. Indiana Jones launches later this year. They also have some smaller titles with Flight Sim 2024, Towerborn, and, like, there's also the other Game Pass titles. There's games coming out this year, allegedly, by Microsoft that are going to be announced this year at their showcase. So it's possibly going to be and I think Microsoft's best E3 showcase was 2018. That was a phenomenal showcase. It had no like down moments or anything. It was just great from start to finish. I think this is going to be their best showcase because people have joked for years about Microsoft not putting out quality games or whatever. They have so many studios in development that consist of multiple teams making multiple games. Like, despite all the games we know about right now, there's still so many games we don't know that's coming. So, like, this summer, it's going to be absolutely freaking massive. And then there's the Gears of War stuff. Now, Tom Warren from The Verge today talked about how there's going to be more than Gears 6 there. Now, to me, that sounds like there's going to be more than one Gears project. There's the Rumored Collection, which we already have the first game, Gears of War Ultimate Edition, where they literally remade the first game. We just need the other two. Or maybe Thorn Judgment as well. But Logan, it looks like Microsoft's finally like cooking something big this year.
Yeah, I am super, super excited for this showcase. Like, we always talk about 360 Gen all the time, but this brings back 360 vibes, like the idea of Call of Duty and Xbox aligned again. And at a showcase, and it's perfect because like they did the Starfield Direct, that was one of the best like pieces of broadcasting Xbox has ever done. The Starfield Direct was awesome. And the idea of having a Call of Duty deep dive direct to where you can go all in, all about Call of Duty, and let that be a huge focus and for all the people who are interested. And that way you can introduce it briefly in the show and be a big moment, but then, sidestep and allow a whole bunch of other content as well is perfect. The Gears thing really catches my interest because Gear 6 feels like a well, duh, no brainer. But as for other than Gear 6, on one hand, you could have a Gears collection, the Marcus Phoenix collection, which has been rumored for like, oh my gosh, it feels like 84 years at this point. But it's been rumored a long time. Or what if they did like a Hive Busters type thing, like they did like a spin off title, like we've wanted Halo to do forever, or whatever, but like a new Gears of War game that is more tailored to a specific type of genre. Maybe a more, gritty, dark, scary horror type Gears game. Or maybe that's just what Gear 6 is. I don't know, but I think there are a lot of possibilities with that.
Yeah, I think it's going to be. There's a lot of variety there when it comes to Gears. People have been wanting something Gears for a long. It's been way too long since Gears. What 5? Yeah, Gears 5. I think you have the lead actor that played Marcus Phoenix's son has been hinting about it that we're gonna.
80.
Yeah, uh, we're gonna hear something about like Gears 6 this year. Like Gears fans are ready. It's been way too long, and like the reason why I'm so like excited is like even though last year we found out about all these new games and like there's a ridiculous amount of first party games in development, they still have a lot of studios to like show what they've been making. Maybe going to say something about Kojima's OD this year because he's making two or more games at the same time, which is crazy. You have the certain Affinity Halo game, which has been rumored for a while, and I'm 99% leaning towards that's going to be shown this year. Certain Affinity's Halo spin-off title, which will be single player only. Um, it's going to be an interesting year, and if people heard a weird beep about 2 minutes ago, I just got a message off Xbox Live saying, let me try and find it quickly. Um, and other people that have the Xbox app more open than may have gotten this. Starting July 29th, 2024, we will no longer support Microsoft Store on Xbox 360 and on the marketplace.com. Games will still be able to, you'll still be able to download games you've purchased, blah, 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 and updates. So they basically confirmed the whole backwards compatibility store shutting down again. I should say that the Xbox 360 store shutting down on the 360. And we talk. I know people get excited about new games, and I love new games. Everyone loves new games. New games are gravy. But like, there's maybe I'm reading too much into this. Maybe it's because the Activision thing, but like them shutting down the store and putting out the announcement right now again, even though they put out a newsletter like a month ago. There's the Activision stuff. Like, I'm 100% certain that we're getting a big batch of BC games at this showcase. It doesn't need to be like a 5 minute long announcement. It can literally be a sizzle reel that's like 30 seconds long. Like, I'm 100% convinced because there's all the Activision games there, and there's titles that need to be backwards compatible that I've checked do not have any license issues. Logan, I know we talk about backwards compatibility a lot, but like just get that notification there. Like, do you think there's like what percentage of you are thinking that it's going to happen?
I don't know about percentages. I'm not a betting man, but I will say I feel confident that there will be something. Like either at the event or in an Xbox Wire post or a a post from Sarah Bond or somebody involved in that. Like I feel fairly confident that something is happening because it just kind of like along the lines of, you don't spend 7.5 billion for Bethesda to do this or you don't spend 70 billion for Activision Blizzard King to do that. Like you have all these things already and you have the capability to make them playable and stuff, which bolsters your library because you always need more content. And frankly, there are a lot of people who are still not exactly happy with Xbox right now. So, from a pure fan service perspective and to inject some good vibes into the timeline, I think a batch of backwards compatibility, even if it's not a very large one, just has some notable stuff that people want, would be a massive goodwill gesture and would instill some hope and positive vibes in the community. Because no matter what walk of life you come from, or background, or you're on the vibe scale you are with Xbox, like being able to play more classic games that you love, that would be something that would be universally happy and good vibes. And so, even from that aspect alone, I think they absolutely should do it. And then, like I said, it's a huge boost to the library, lets people play what they want and already own, and exposes people to new IPs that they might have missed, tests interest for future entries in those sagas. And if the store is shutting down anyway, what do you have to lose to let people play things like that? Like, if it's going away gonzo like the dodo bird, you might as well let people play them before they're totally gone, because, emulation is a slippery slope. So just come on. Like, I think it's going to happen. Obviously, I don't know the future, but I think if it didn't happen, that would be more problematic than not.
Yeah, I mean one of the main reasons I'm leaning towards it, happening is because we've heard from like multiple places that an Activision batch is happening. Like it would make more sense to have like the last few games they can get over. Like I've mentioned before, Medal of Honor 2010, as far as I know, isn't backwards compatible because of one song in the credits. Like that's a travesty. The Saboteur, that has a bunch of like old licensed music, but it got relisted on Steam like a month and a half ago. And what was that Obsidian game? Alpha Protocol. Like you can get that on
Yes.
GOG now. It has licensed music, and you can buy it on PC again on GOG, and it has a bunch of quality of life features and stuff. And basically, they worked on it. So like, I think it's happening. So new games. By the way, this isn't a leak or anything. I 100% believe we're going to see IO Interactive's new game, Project Dragon, which is meant to
Ooh.
be an Xbox exclusive. It's been long enough because they had a separate team making that outside of Hitman 3. So just putting that out there. And lastly, let's talk about hardware. Microsoft's recently been putting out surveys that what do people think about handhelds? What kind of handheld they would want, be it PC, more open platforms, or like console specific stuff. And given the stuff that Sarah Bond was talking about a few months ago, and now people are getting these surveys, it is a bit weird, isn't it? Like the rumored Xbox handheld seems to be happening. Like I'm leaning more towards it happening. That's going to happen because it's just like it's a weird time. You have these PC handhelds popping off, like the Steam Deck and the ROG Ally and whatever the other ones are called. I can't remember. But like people love these PC handhelds, and people have been wanting an Xbox handheld since like the 360 generation. So like I think that we are going to see some interesting hardware this year. There was a leak about 3 weeks ago of a white Xbox Series X. As someone that's messed around with AI, I'm 99% certain that was an AI enhanced image because just the way the labels looked, it didn't look right. Because the FTC document last year had like there's going to be multiple pieces of Xbox hardware. There's going to be a new controller with advanced haptics, gyro support, made out of better materials and all that stuff. Replaceable joysticks, but one of the main things that they were talking about was the digital Xbox Series S. Oh, sorry, digital Xbox Series X having a USB-C, a bunch of different power modes, 2 terabytes and that stuff. And I can't see them launching just a standard white console that looks as the one we have now, just without a disc drive. Logan, do you think the handheld thing is actually happening?
Yeah, I would say I'm not certain, but I'm just under certain that that is happening. Yes. I it's just the writing's on the wall there. There's magical surveys just popping out of nowhere asking customers if they have interest in it. There's, the Steam Decks and ROG Allies and Lenovo Goes and all these things selling like hotcakes. Everybody's interested in it. You have information coming from Japan and other places that more people are playing on mobile devices or on the go than ever before. The market conditions are being set. Their interest in reaching everybody anywhere in any situation. The fact that Phil himself has brought it up and more than once, and the fact that he's also said, "I don't bring things up just to hear my head rattle. Like if I put something out there, there's a very good reason why I put it out there. I just, to me, the only question is not if it's happening, but if we hear about it officially this year, and it's revealed this year, and it comes out this year, or in the near future, or if they announce it in a year or two and it comes out not long after that. But I am pretty convinced that handheld is happening.
Yeah, my prediction is it's either going to be shown off this year and it comes out this year and it's S hardware but in a handheld, or they are really gearing up for the next gen. You know, their next gen is meant to be in 2026. Like, we don't know what they're going to be doing because this time we have, the Series X and S. Like, maybe there won't be a smaller, cheaper console next time. Maybe there'll be the expensive console and the handheld. We don't know. That's the crazy thing about Microsoft at the minute. They could really do anything. But hey, Xbox, like, people, you can open up Twitter and there's so much FUD going online with people just panicking. And I know the 4 games going multi-platform scared people. Like, people really need to calm down. Like, we've seen the Helldivers stuff. Helldivers maybe coming to Xbox. And bear in mind, that hasn't been denied either. Like, Sony is very quick, by the way, to, like, deny certain things. Not a single person has denied Helldivers 2. We live in this weird age where things are changing. People just have to get used to it. And, like, do I think in the future more games will go to PlayStation? Yeah. But I don't think they're going to be, like, big things. As far as I know, Bethesda has some card games in the works and some MMOs. Like, I do think those things will be multi-platform, but I don't think your Avoweds and your Hellblades and your Gears and Halos and stuff, I don't see that happening at all. And, like, look at the stuff on PC, like not Skull and Bones, Sea of Thieves. That's a successful game. It's been going on for years now. Microsoft clearly tapped out the max sales potential on the platform, which I've been talking about for like 6 months. And that's a live service game. So, like, that makes sense. But if you look at all the games Microsoft has in development right now, they're all single player. So, like, the whole live service model thing doesn't really apply to Microsoft for their other games. But yeah, just want to say that because all the madness that was happening in January and February, like, to this day, people are still freaking out. Like, just calm down. It's not worth it. Like, Xbox is going to be fine. Microsoft wouldn't invest 70 plus billion, and that's if we only talk about Activision, into, like, these studios and hardware. These pieces of hardware cost billions to R&D. Like, people just need to stop worrying. You have grifters doing their thing online, saying it's all going to end and stuff. It's like, look, would it be cool if we lived in the 360 generation again and just, like, Xbox 360 games were on 360, PlayStation 3 games were on PlayStation 3, online multiplayer didn't have battle passes and all that stuff? Yes, that would be cool, but it's not that time. People just need to, get on with it. It's going to be fine. Anyway, Logan, have you got anything else to say before we close out the show?
No, just that I'm excited for the future. I can't wait for the showcase. Star Wars Day is coming up, and there's a bunch of Star Wars titles, games, movies, everything on sale on Xbox if you're interested. And there seems to be a lot of momentum for some possible Godzilla stuff in terms of kaiju like games and media stuff that's floating around. So keep an eye on that as well.
Yeah, I think it's about time we get a good Godzilla game. Like the last one I played was on GameCube, and that was a fighting game. Um, Prime time for Godzilla stuff. I don't know why they don't do more with that IP when it comes to games. Anyway, everyone, chat's been awesome. Logan, it's been great talking to you again. We'll be back the same time next week. There should be some pretty big news things dropping between now and next Tuesday. I will be putting out a brand new video tomorrow. It was originally meant to go out on Friday. However, certain things changed, so I had to completely re-edit the thing. But brand new video coming out tomorrow, so sharing it tomorrow whenever that stuff happens is greatly appreciated. These videos take like sometimes 12 to 20 hours long to make, like a long time to make. So getting them out in time is tricky, but hey, it's the first, should be out in time. But yeah, so one video coming out between now and Tuesday. The support's greatly appreciated. We'll be back next week. Everyone, please have a great day. We're out. Peace, everybody. It turns out my mouse needs to charge. Anyway, peace, everyone.